Good afternoon. On behalf of the Louisville Urban League Board of Directors, it is my honor and privilege to welcome you all to our 2020 Annual Impact Luncheon, presented by Kroger. We know this year's event may look and feel different, and while we wish we were able to be together in person, the health and safety of all of us is most important. We look forward to the day when we can see each other in person. For those of you who ordered lunch today, I hope you enjoy your meal. All three of the restaurants who partner with us today are Black-owned. Thank you, Dasha Barber's Southern Bistro, Four Pegs, and Super Chefs for providing delicious food for our guests. We hope you all will consider supporting these restaurants in the future. Despite all that this year has brought us, I have never been more proud than I am today to serve as the board chair of this amazing organization. Madam President Sadiqa Reynolds and her team have done tremendous work this year, working through a global pandemic and social unrest, both locally and nationally, to continue to provide life-changing programs through jobs, justice, education, health, and housing. Thank you for being a voice for those who so often go unheard and for your tireless dedication to this community. Thank you to the men and women who serve on the League's Board of Directors. I am honored to serve alongside each and every one of you. Thank you for your commitment to this organization. A special thank you to our partners who have made today's events possible. To Ann, Alan, Aaron, and the rest of the team at Kroger, thank you for presenting this year's luncheon. I also want to thank Papa John's, Bloomin' Brands, Commonwealth Credit Union, First Financial Bank, Kosair Charities, LG&E, and PNC Bank, Beam Suntory, Fifth Third Bank, Humana, Russell, A Place of Promise, Stephen Riley, and Emily Bingham. Wave TV and Louisville Public Media for your support. Thank you. We have been touched by the amount of support we have received this year from so many of you. While this has been a difficult year, we know that we must be in this together. Please enjoy today's event. It is our hope that you will leave today's luncheon feeling inspired and ready to be part of the change that this community so desperately needs. Thank you for being here with us today.
We thank you for this day. We thank you, God, for the gift of life and for all of your many blessings. Oh God, as we come into your presence, we acknowledge that this has been one of the most horrendous and horrific years in the history of our nation. This has been a year, God, where we have had to grapple with the pandemic across the world. People have been suffering in countries all over the world, and more particularly, God, in America. It has been a very difficult year because we've had national leadership, even leadership within our state, that has been characterized by irresponsibility and a lack of integrity. Oh God, this has been a year that has been very marked by suffering and sorrow because we've seen the resurgence of racism and social injustice. But God, in the midst of it all, you have sustained us and you have kept us because you are our refuge and our strength, a very present help in a time of trouble. God, we thank you now for the viable, for the responsible and spiritual leadership of Sadiqa Reynolds and the staff at the Urban League. And we thank you, God, for all other persons of goodwill who have joined in with them in this city to seek to make life more livable for others, particularly for people who are marginalized and those who are poor. We pray, God, that you'll continue to give us the conviction and the confidence to make a difference in this city and across this nation for good. So, God, we thank you now for your presence. We thank you for your power. We thank you for your peace. Help us, oh God, to love one another as you love us, and help us to continue to give ourselves to make life more human and to make life healthier and to make life more respectable for people all over this city and all over the nation. For we ask it in the wonderful name of your Son, Jesus the Christ, we pray. Amen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ann Reed, President of the Kroger Louisville Division. Thank you so much for having us today. Kroger is so proud to support the Louisville Urban League. At Kroger, our purpose is to feed the human spirit, which means we are called to do more and help make the lives around us better. When we see our associates, customers, and neighbors impacted by racism, discrimination, and injustice, we are called to speak out and act in accordance with our values. While diversity and inclusion have been long-standing values in our company, we have sharpened our focus since the civil unrest in June and the call for justice across America. At that time, we made a commitment to listen and to take action to make a difference. Over the past several months, we've taken time to listen to our associates and learn from our communities on what we can do better to accelerate change and equity in our workplace and the communities we serve. I am so proud of our associates and leaders who have come together to listen, transparently share, and learn from each other. Their feedback has been instrumental in building our plan to move forward together. We recently announced our Kroger Framework for Action, which includes diversity, equity, and inclusion. This plan is just a beginning. We are approaching this effort with humility, and we know we can't do this alone, and we don't and won't all have all the answers. Locally, we are focusing our efforts around diversifying our local vendor community, developing diverse talent, and growing diverse partnerships, and advancing equitable communities by deploying funds to support local partners, just like our Louisville Urban League. I am so proud of our purposeful approach and the time we've taken to create this plan, but I'm mostly inspired by our associates and community partners who have made this all possible. Their willingness to be honest and vulnerable was the fuel we needed to begin learning and understanding. This is just a beginning. We are committed to continuing to listen and take action. I encourage you to visit Kroger.com to read more about our plan to stand together. Thank you so much for being here today. We're proud to support the Louisville Urban League and their mission to uplift and empower underserved communities through economic development, entrepreneurship, health, housing, and education. It's going to take all of us working together to make a difference in our communities.
Been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
The National Urban League was created in 1910 and the Louisville Urban League in 1920, and then it was incorporated in 1921. And there were leaders in our community that believed that people needed to be empowered, and they created the league with $1,000 that was raised at a community dinner one night.
Well, I think when the Urban League was founded, it was equality, assisting African Americans to be vibrant, to thrive. That evolved over time. So it's just not African Americans, it's other minorities and the disadvantaged to achieve social and economic equality across the board. I enjoyed a program we developed called Rebound, rebuilding our urban neighborhood dwellings, housing in western Louisville and some in the southern part of the county. People were able to buy those homes and we saw a lot of families become prosperous and to thrive. So what excited me was to leave a vibrant organization. We were able to put the Urban League in a higher level than what it was when I came here back in '87. Sadiqa came with a great deal of relationships and understood how to challenge certain aspects of our community to bring about change.
For us, it means jobs, justice, education, health, and housing. It means if people need jobs, we help them with that. If they need help with improving where they are as far as what kind of job they have, then we're helping with that. On the justice side, we're doing everything, whether it's fighting for justice in the Breonna Taylor case, or jury diversity, or you name it, education, closing the achievement gap. We're doing all of those things. That requires all of us working together. I can't do that alone. My team and I, we can't do that. We need this community. We need everybody. We need Democrats, we need Republicans, we need independents, we need everyone working together to actually change this world. I hope that I can fight hard enough that my children don't have to fight the same battle. If there were one thing I would say to people about the Urban League, it is if we ever actually get to justice, the jobs, the education, the health, and the housing, those things would come. If you have to focus on one thing, let it be justice, because everything else will come from that.
A warm congratulations on 100 years of service to the Louisville community. But I also want to point out the importance of the work you're doing today in 2020, leading the fight for racial justice, continuing to serve the community during the challenge of COVID. I'm proud of your work because you're part of this unprecedented movement of urban leaguers in the 21st century that continue to lift up the mission and lift up the banner. Congratulations. Continue your work. Happy 100.
Jobs, justice, education,
health, and housing.
Over the last year, the nation and this city have been rocked by the devastating realities of a global pandemic and long-lasting racial and social issues that reach their crest.
And while the Louisville Urban League has not been spared from the impact of these events, we have never stopped serving.
The League, who had almost 16,000 visits to the building between July and March, made the pivot to serve the community virtually and meet people right where they are.
Still, our Center for Workforce Development has been able to place 398 people into new jobs with an average hourly wage of more than $14 and representing more than $11.7 million in total wages. We've had 2,900 people attending hiring fairs, workshops, and orientations. 89 men and women have successfully completed our Kentuckiana Builds program, a nationally accredited construction training, and 68 of those people graduated with a new job in hand. 48 people completed our CDL training class and received their Class B license. 39 of those individuals have new jobs at more than $18 an hour. Despite the adversity, this year our workforce training participants have earned 364 national credentials. Our Urban Seniors Jobs Program has been more important than ever during this critical time, as we serve 168 seniors over the age of 55. Many of our 48 partner host agencies around the state have had to close their doors or go remote, but with help from the National Urban League and Department of Labor, we have been able to maintain more than $788,000 in wages for them. We helped 49 complete our specialized Senior Tech Customer Service program and had 12 seniors enter into unsubsidized employment.
Justice is the thread that runs through everything that we do. Last year, 591 individuals received expungement services through the Raleigh Reentry Project, saving more than $137,000 in potential legal and court fees. And we could not have done this work without the help of our 68 volunteers, attorneys, and partners around the state. We did our part to make sure Louisville was counted, promoting the federal census throughout the community and directly assisting over 100 people to complete the survey. During the primary, we registered 261 voters, helped almost 100 people with the mail-in ballot process, and transported 57 people to the polls.
And then, we legally challenged the state to guarantee more access and ensure a safer and more free voting experience for all Kentuckians. And it was a big win for Kentucky. Thanks to our advocacy with friends like ACLU, the NAACP, and others, and the bipartisan leadership of the Governor and Secretary of State, Kentucky experienced the most accessible election in its history.
This year has been particularly rough on our youngest residents. Students and their families had their year unexpectedly upended by the pandemic. And while we all understood the need to move away from the building and into virtual classrooms, we still mourn the loss of one last game, recital, pep rally, or graduation ceremony. But despite the challenges, students have pushed forward, and the League has done everything we can to help them out along the way. We serve more than 325 students through our 5 educational programs. We delivered more than 400 hours of instruction for 4th and 5th grade boys, middle school girls, high school students, and 67 families with kids of all ages. 100% of our seniors graduated last year, and 95% of them started college this fall. 60% of them received more than $160,000 in scholarships. Our students had the opportunity to travel, learn chess and martial arts, and some even got to write a book. 175 youth participated in taking pictures of what peace and justice looks like to them and processed living through the pain of Breonna's murder and countless other racial injustices in the middle of a pandemic. On the policy side, we have pushed JCPS to be a more equitable and just space for all of our children, and will continue to do so. We have been a partner with Evolve 502, helping them secure funding for students to go to college, and we remain active with partners across the state, seeking innovative ways to close the achievement gap.
At the Louisville Urban League, health is more than your weight, your blood pressure reading, or latest doctor report. When we think about health, we're thinking about whole people and the environments they live in. Because what's happening in the world around you, your job, your community, your family, and how you are feeling about it, mentally and physically, impacts your ability to thrive. Last year, our community health navigators supported more than 115 people, connecting them to doctors, counselors, food, transportation, housing, and a host of other resources.
Together, we worked to increase the number of good mental health days our participants had by more than 3 days, and improve the number of good physical health days by more than 2 days over a 30-day period. That's more days that someone was able to go to work and earn their paycheck, go to class and learn, or just be present for their family. And there is no price we can put on that.
Since COVID, we have helped to feed hundreds of families, hosted multiple virtual mental health clinics, paid more than $100,000 in rental assistance, provided over 1,300 people with free COVID-19 testing, and made 350 home visits to some of our more hard-to-reach clients just to be sure that they're okay. We have done all this and more because we know that life's challenges don't happen in silos, and so our services can't either.
Our Center for Housing and Financial Empowerment is here to help people understand their finances, navigate specific financial situations, and begin to build wealth. Regardless of where you may be starting, we believe there is a pathway to greater economic stability for you and for future generations. Last year, 119 families completed our homeownership counseling program. That means they're ready to own. They have increased their credit score to 640 or better, worked with our certified financial counselors, and saved at least $2,000. 53 of those families became new homeowners, creating more than $6.6 million in new mortgages. Our team helped to save 15 homes from foreclosure. That is $1.2 million in home value saved. In addition, we moved our educational courses online and have served more than 1,200 in our financial education workshops and 185 people in our home buyer education classes. Despite the obstacles presented by the pandemic, our team remains committed to addressing the financial needs of our community because we know that right now, especially now, the need to be able to manage one's finances is absolutely essential.
Jobs,
Justice,
education, health, and housing.
Last year was hard, and for many, the struggle will continue in the weeks and months ahead.
But the Louisville Urban League will be here, just as we have for the last 100 years.
we will be here to serve,
to demand justice,
and to be a catalyst for real change.
Hello everyone, I'm Russ Cox, President and CEO of Norton Healthcare. I can't wait till we can all be together again to do this. But that's where we are today. You know, many times in my career I've been asked to introduce people before they speak. And so many times I've used the line, this person really needs no introduction. But most times they really did need an introduction, but not today. There are so few people in the world who are recognized by just one name. Think about it. Michael, LeBron, Cher, Elvis, Beyonce, and of course, Sadiqa. So often introductions tell you all about what someone has done. But today, I'm going to tell you about who she is. Let's start first with who Sadiqa is. First and foremost, she's a mother. That's her true north. If you want to see her light up, ask about her kids. That's Sadiqa. This is also a person who defines firsts. What firsts? How about the first black female to serve as chief clerk for the Kentucky Supreme Court? How about the first black woman to serve as inspector general for the Commonwealth of Kentucky? How about the first black woman to serve as president and CEO of the Louisville Urban League? You can see that who she is a person who lives for those firsts. That's Sadiqa. Here's something you may not know. Sadiqa is the ultimate multitasker. I have experienced her having a conversation with me in person while answering a text and talking to someone on her phone, all the while eating lunch in her car while driving. She's always doing something. That's Sadiqa. Perhaps my most vivid memory of Sadiqa is a day when I was driving home and having a conversation with my board chair, which is a pretty important call for me. When all of a sudden I saw a call coming in identifying Sadiqa as the incoming caller. Clearly I didn't answer it, but immediately afterwards I heard my text alert ding, and there was a message saying, hey, answer my call. I'm not asking you for money this time. That's Sadiqa. Here's something else you may not know about Sadiqa. She will get you in trouble, but it's fun trouble. My early acquaintance with Sadiqa was in a community board meeting where, let's just say, she got me in trouble for laughing at something that she had said in the back of the room with her. Let's just face it, she can be as funny as all get out. That's Sadiqa. Now, Sadiqa was a big thinker. Some call her a dreamer, but there's a difference in dreamers and thinkers. Dreamers sometimes only dream. Sadiqa took one particular dream and acted on it. She did what visionary leaders do. She made it a reality. Her reality, of course, included Norton Sports Health being the name on her dream, And that turned out to be a $5 million reality for us in Norton Healthcare. But that's fine. I felt like I had no choice. That's Sadiqa. Finally, Sadiqa is a friend. Not just a friend to me, she's a friend to you. And she's a friend to this entire community. So, let me introduce you to the woman who needs no introduction, who is a mom first and foremost, is known by one name, is all about firsts, who's not afraid to ask you for money, who has a wicked sense of humor, who dreams big and acts big on those dreams, and is everyone's best friend. Oh, and I left out, she's a force of nature. Please put your hands together and get your running shoes on for Sadiqa.
Wow, that was the best introduction. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Russ. Thank you. I loved it. I loved it. Even if it's not all true, I still loved it. And I clearly asked the right person. Thank you so much, my friend, for everything you have done, for all of your support. You cannot know how much I appreciate you and the Norton family. Thank you so much for putting your name on our sports and learning complex. We are excited and grateful that Norton stepped up early. I will never, ever forget that. And thank you for recognizing the multitasking. I think that is awful, though, that I would send a text to to tell you to answer my call. I'm always striving to do better, and eventually I will, but it just apparently not right now. But thank you for calling, and thank you for answering the call. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Russ. To all of the staff at the league, thank you all so much for everything you do every single day. It takes all of us. It takes an all hands on deck approach. And I am so very thankful for all that you do. Thanks to everybody who has supported the league for so long. I hope you'll bear with me. It is a very difficult thing to talk to people virtually. I know we're all having virtual meetings, but a virtual speech is really kind of next level, I have to tell you. And so this is a very interesting approach. So, but thank you, really. Thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to support the league, or for starting to support the league. I don't know where you fall in on the spectrum, but I'm thankful to have you here today. I'm sure you will acknowledge that 2020 has really exhausted us all. I will admit that I have had to dive through really to the depths of my soul to find the power to keep going and to keep others going. I've tried hard not to make promises about a future I don't control, while also, being positive about what the future has the potential to hold. I am a Black woman attempting to lift my people, even as I am burdened with the same affliction, this brown skin. I often find myself wondering, how does the doctor suffering with stage 4 diagnosis inspire the patient who believes the disease will kill them? That is what this country is requiring of Black leadership. And to be clear, that is what this city is requiring of Black leadership. Back in July of 2019, when our fiscal year started, the Urban League, we were just dealing with regular old racism and, other things that were happening in the community we serve. And, I say that, and then that's really not true, because honestly, the president it hasn't been regular old racism for a long time, actually. And that's really not a comment about Democrats or Republicans. It's just about harmful, deadly, poisonous policy, creating the antithesis of the world designed to keep my children safe. But anyway, way back then, before there was any pandemic that we were aware of, the league was on track for a record year. Job placements were higher than ever. Housing counseling was at an all-time high. Black homeownership was being moved forward by our work, and we were doing enough expungements to clog the courthouse. We then began hearing about this virus, and we took precautions, but eventually it was clear that we had to get most of the staff and all of our clients out of the building until we could figure out a safer way. On March 13th, 2020, everybody went home, and there were 3 of us left in the building. We walked through our finances, trying to figure out what we could do, how we could do it, how long we would be able to continue to serve if this virus continued to impact the world, indefinitely. And as we sat in that office on March 13th, 2020, just trying to figure out how to manage this new world, I got a call from LMPD informing me that there had been an officer-involved shooting. I will never forget that call because I felt like I was in the middle of my own crisis. I asked if I could go down to the police station to see the body camera footage, and I was told that there was none. That did surprise me because actually I thought there was a new rule that all officers would use body cameras. And when I brought that up, I was told that there was an exception for these particular types of officers. That did not make sense to me because even an undercover officer serving a warrant, your cover would be blown once you serve the warrant. So I really couldn't understand why there wasn't body camera footage. And I was pretty sure that the community was under the impression that body cameras were standard for all officers. I guess we failed to read the fine print. But anyway, on March 13th, when I hung up the phone, I was deflated. A young Black woman was dead. There was no body camera footage. And all I could think of was how would the city respond? The people of the city, the residents, me. I left the phone call believing the drugs and money were found, and those things were found, but they were not found in the home of the woman who had been killed. And we all know now, but I learned on that day, her name was Breonna Taylor. At some point, I spoke with Eddie Woods, and Eddie runs a violence prevention program here in the city. We expressed our concerns to one another about the case. We both had the sense that this case would be different. It didn't make sense. I called back LMPD repeatedly with questions, but there was a pandemic. I had a lot on my mind. There was a lot going on. So we continued watching and waiting and asking questions. At some point, I really did feel that the answers were not so much evasive as they were dishonest. And I said as much. And my question to the individual responding to my concerns was, are you lying to me? Or is it possible that they are lying to you? Even as I asked those questions, I was consumed with my own burdens, trying to run the Urban League, ensuring that our clients and our staff had what they needed and that our doors remained open, but that everyone was safe. We did not close. We changed our hours, but we never stopped serving the community because after all, this is the time that they need us the most. And it was also in March that we realized that construction for the sports and learning complex was in danger of being completely shut down. We needed cash immediately to be able to move forward. I called advisors, and to a person, they all said, Sadiqa, you will work it out. I felt like they had faith in me that I did not deserve, and honestly, I didn't want. And it was at that point that Humana Inc. stepped in and saved the day. They agreed to invest in the project immediately. Crisis averted. All of a sudden, the 300 plus jobs we had created were safe. We would move forward. I was beginning to breathe normally. As normally as you can, as a Black woman leading a civil rights organization in a pandemic where you are worried about the facts of a case where police have killed a Black woman and you feel like you're not getting straight answers. So one crisis was averted, but the pressure was still there. And then On May 5th, we learned that 25-year-old Ahmaud Arbery had been shot to death in Georgia. That case had been brushed under the rug for months, but gained traction, and we all watched in horror as the facts came out. The prosecutor had recused herself because one of the men involved in the shooting was a retired officer who had been an investigator in her office. A second prosecutor recused themselves. And just in case you're keeping score, 2 prosecutorial bodies recused themselves in the Breonna Taylor case as well, the Commonwealth Attorney and the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Kentucky. Anyway, we were dealing with a pandemic, trying to feed people who had no source of income and were on the phone for hours and days and weeks trying to get through to unemployment. We were trying to secure supplies for those we serve, trying to pay rent, trying to figure out transportation in cases where taxis or Uber and Lyft would not come, did not have enough drivers. It was a tough time. But we all watched the Ahmaud Arbery case with the rest of the country. We heard them lie about the fact that there had been so many burglaries in that community. We heard them lie about who he was and what he was up to. And then we saw the video. And all I could think was about a mother losing her son, and then the people who killed him rewriting the story of who he was, implying that he was not worthy of living. After we are killed, our stories are stolen. Kind of like the history books, just rewritten. So on May 25th, as Louisville is questioning Breonna's case and learning about Ahmaud Arbery, a police officer kneels on the neck of George Floyd. It was the slow, quiet, easy way he was killed. I don't know how police departments retrain men who would slowly kill a man for allegedly passing a fake $20 bill. How do you train someone to see the humanity in another human being? Now, some people think it was the George Floyd case that really broke the dam in Louisville, but that's not accurate. It was not May 25th, but instead it was the day that the Pulitzer Prize-winning Courier-Journal released the 911 recording. It was May 28th. All fears about the Breonna Taylor case were confirmed. The recording confirmed what he said. He didn't know they were police. The audio confirmed what we suspected. The case against Kenny, it wasn't strong. After all, what Black man is released on home incarceration after shooting a white police officer? We knew there was more to that story. The audio confirmed for us that police immediately had access to information that contradicted the story they called and told me on March 13th, the day I sent all of my employees home, the day I was trying to figure out how to keep the league doors open, the day I was trying to figure out how to serve this community. The police called me and lied. It was not open and shut. What we heard in Kenny's 911 call, that is what sent Louisvillians out of their houses and into the streets. We were devastated by Ahmaud's murder. We were traumatized by George Floyd's murder, but it was Breonna Taylor's life and death that ravished any semblance of trust we had in our city leaders. And so on May 28th, I walked down Main Street into a crowd of protesters and officers in riot gear. It was the first time in my life I heard tear gas being detonated. For some reason, I did not imagine that pepper bullets would be used on nonviolent protesters. Unless you were out there, you do not know the impact of realizing in your own American city, nonviolent protesters were being met with riot gear, tear gas, and pepper bullets. And on that night, after seeing those things, I heard gunfire. I stood at the corner of 3rd and Jefferson debating whether to move forward, and suddenly there was a man laying on the ground. He'd been shot by someone. In fact, 7 people were shot that night. This city was not one that I recognized. We still don't know who fired the weapons that night. The police say they didn't do it. As much as I wanted to stop the rage, I recognized that the rage was righteous and the system did need to be disrupted. We begged city officials to fire the officers. We warned city officials not to underestimate the stamina of the community. We failed. And as if we weren't already in enough pain, in the early morning hours of June 1st, a Black man in the West End was killed by law enforcement. The National Guard and LMPD had gone down to 26th and Broadway. There were no protesters there, but apparently there were people in violation of a curfew they probably didn't even know existed. I asked if there were body cameras. The answers were confusing. They remain. Black leaders across this community braced ourselves for a terrible day. I prayed. I'm sure a lot of people did. By 7:28 a.m., I had had at least 3 phone calls about the death of David McAtee. I also, as a side note, sent a text message to Pat Matheson at 6:28 a.m. asking her if she could please attend a funeral and sing at 12 o'clock that day. She said yes. The song was Amazing Grace. I kissed my kids goodbye and I went to work. And Stefan Dingle from WLKY came to the Louisville Urban League and asked for an interview. And when we finished, he told me that David McAtee's body was still laying there. I jumped in my car, drove down Broadway, and I saw a community in mourning, my community. On one side of the street, people were enraged. On the other side of the street, officers in riot gear, some in regular uniform. I felt like I was pulling up to a wildfire with a bottle of water. I mean, just for a moment, imagine this man that was beloved by his community, a man who would feed protester and police, had been killed at the hands of law enforcement. And the people now standing guard at the scene, causing his body to remain there for hours and hours, were the very people who killed him. And the community that loved him had to stand across the street in the heat and do nothing. And I imagine that some of you all are thinking now, well, he fired a weapon. And I understand that you're thinking that, but I also hope you are wondering, when was it that our police department started shooting pepper bullets at citizens in violation of a curfew? I hope you're wondering, would they do that in Prospect? But on that day, there were so many there Hannah, Tanya, Couture, Pastor Williams, Kelsey, Pastor Finley, Manuel, people I knew, people I didn't know, people whose faces I knew and didn't know names. And for a little while, I was sure that someone or many people would be killed. The energy was stressful. I couldn't imagine that we would all survive, to be honest. Our community was in pain, in rage, and police were offended and afraid, and they looked like they were ready for war. Occasionally, one of us would walk across the street just to talk with police. We couldn't imagine how they would move David McAtee without someone else being hurt or killed. The crowd was too angry. All I could do is pray for direction. And then Pat Matheson sent a text to let me know that the funeral was over. She will tell you that I returned her text with a phone call, speaking erratically and yelling for her to meet me on Broadway. And I walked over to the officer who seemed to be in charge and asked him if he could please give us a sign before they moved the body. Recognizing the volatility of the situation, he agreed. And when he signaled, we put Pat on the bullhorn and she sang Amazing Grace. The tears poured. And I would be lying if I didn't acknowledge those who were frustrated and tired of being pacified by old Negro spirituals and gospel songs. But for many of us, we were just trying to find a way to live through that day, and we saw no alternative. Ultimately, we were able to release the air we'd been holding in for hours. I saw a man physically fall down from the stress. For me, I got in my car, and what should have been a 15-minute ride took an hour and a half because I just kept pulling over to process. I run a civil rights organization. I know racism is alive and well, but from my point of view, having been born in 1972, Black Louisvillians and Black Americans were experiencing a level of trauma that was unprecedented for me, for my lifetime. As you know by now, every time we thought we'd get justice, it never came. The Attorney General came to the league. He met with a group of us. Pastor Finley, Pastor Williams were among the group. He told us he would be fair. We specifically asked about the affidavit for the warrant. He told us he would look at the entire case. And then he walked out. And at some point between that day and the day he stood at the podium and explained to us just how little our lives mattered. Can you imagine a 26-year-old white female first responder being killed in her home at the hands of police, and months later, there is still no investigating authority willing to confirm that the affidavit used to secure the warrant was even valid? I think white people would have burned Louisville down. We have evidence that this city and this country knows what justice looks like because it is afforded to others. In every way, shape, and form, the Black community has and continues to be failed. And now in Louisville, there are weekly meetings about how to stop the bleeding. It is long past time for Louisville's leadership to stop the smoke and mirrors. Past time for lofty rhetoric with little in the way of real change. My cries and those of many others have largely gone unheeded. We get invited to the meetings, but even when it comes to our community, people don't listen. No more. And not because of who I am or anything specific that I or the league has done, but because this city, in its apathy toward our humanity, has awoken a new wave of freedom fighters and reinvigorated some old ones. And we will never again have peace without justice. We will not settle. and we will not stop until the fight is finished. America, in its tattered history, does have one brief moment when it legitimately attempted to do right by Black people and correct racial wrongs. And we all know that time is Reconstruction. Reconstruction is a time when real equity policies were implemented, Black representatives were installed at state and federal levels, land was deeded over to former slaves, and the federal government committed to hold it all together, placing federal troops all across the South. But that period ended because in 1876, following a contentious election, the Republican Party, mostly Northerners who had fought and won the Civil War, sought to make peace and unity with Southerners threatening again to disrupt and divide the Union. Rather than risk fighting another war, they opted to compromise, maintaining their white power and sacrificing the rights and lives of Black people. This nation, and more specifically this city, is at a similar point in its history. This is our Reconstruction opportunity, but we have to be willing to fight this war and do what it takes to win. We must win the war against racism, win the war against disenfranchisement, win the war against political complacency and corporate neglect. We must be willing to fight and win the war for humanity and dignity for all people. That will require us to be unwavering in our commitment to hold the line. We cannot compromise our principles. We cannot be willing to sacrifice anyone's humanity ever again. It is time for those with power and privilege to develop some backbone. The people in the streets have theirs. You have to be prepared to sit with your discomfort, to admit the wrongs of our city leaders, some of your corporations. You have to be willing to help us move forward. We can be the best city in the country. How can you not be inspired to change when you see the diverse groups of young and old people raising their fists together and their voices for justice? How can you not be inspired by some of these corporations that are stepping up to say, we are really going to put our money where our mouth is? I know you didn't love the Derby protests, but didn't you respect the idea that people who were sick and tired of being sick and tired still had the wherewithal to organize a nonviolent demonstration of their pain? What would you do if your children were being killed? We know our community is not perfect, and I'm tired of hearing that. But we are no less human. And we have done nothing to ourselves or to anyone else that is not also recorded in the true history of white Americans. We were not responsible for creating slavery or Jim Crow or redlining. So stop allowing people to tell us how bad we are. Help us fix the policies that break our backs. Community leaders came together and gave you a path forward. Read it. And I am sorry, I know for many of you, this is not the speech you wanted, and it was my intention to inspire you. But instead, I have decided I wanted to provoke you to action. We have answers. Listen to us. Consider the number of Black people in leadership in your company. Consider the number of Black board members on your board. Consider the number of loans you underwrite for Black businesses. Consider who it is you decide to give the benefit of the doubt. I am here in this city because I love it. Don't ever doubt that about me. But we must be intentional about the work, not the ribbon cuttings and the meetings, but the work. So if you want to know how I'm feeling inspired by the alignments I've seen. I'm feeling hopeful because of the conversations I'm hearing. But do the work. Do not waste this crisis. Learn and help us move forward. You matter to me, and I believe that I matter to you. But does the little Black girl in the hood with no law degree matter too? If she does, build her affordable housing. Help her close the achievement gap. Speak up for her. Louisville, I believe we are forever changed. But only you can decide what we will be changed into. In spite of it all, I feel optimistic. So Like I told Russ Cox when I called him that day, answer my call. Thank you for everything you have done and for recognizing the things that have been left undone. We can be better. We will be better, but we must sit with the truth of our failure. That is the only way for us to get to justice. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I stand before you today as a proud board member of the League and an employee of Brown-Forman. Over the past several years, I'm pleased to say that Brown-Forman has increased our financial support of the League because we know every corporation doing business in our city has a role to play in supporting equitable solutions. I have seen firsthand how essential the League's services are, especially now as we're dealing with the effects of a global pandemic, racism, and civil unrest. The League's staff and board can't do this work alone. We need your support to ensure that we're able to continue our focus on jobs, justice, education, health, and housing. Please join us in the fight today. I'm asking you to give. There are several ways you can support our work right now. The easiest way is to text LUL to 243-725. You can also visit our website, lul.org, and make a gift online. Finally, if you prefer, you can mail your contribution to the Louisville Urban League office at 1535 West Broadway, Louisville, Kentucky 40203. Also, if you need further motivation, LG&E has been such a strong supporter of the League, they've decided to match dollar for dollar the first $5,000 in contributions we received today. That means today your gift has the potential to have double the impact on the front lines in our community. Thank you to LG&E, thank you to all our sponsors, and thank you for being here with us today. Your support matters.
New Legacy is a lifelong dream. We provide reentry services to individuals transitioning out of jail or prison, and we help them to become productive members of society. We value our success at an individual who doesn't return to prison and is a working, productive member of society. Because of the Urban League, we're able to say, hey, the Urban League has this program, the Urban League has that program. We've had some of our folks go through their CDL program and the tax program. A lot of our guys, it's the first time they've ever done, taxes in a long time or ever, period. So there's so many opportunities for them to gain access to the things that they aspire to through our partnership with the Urban League.
And see, the Urban League, like New Legacy, we all need partners. But you need partners that work and that's moving forward to do something in the community. The Urban League has kept us afloat, has really and truthfully, so they're not taking care of just the people in the neighborhood, they're taking care of nonprofits also who hook up to be good partners with them to really be an extension through New Legacy with them.
Because if there's anything that I've learned from our journey working with returning citizens, is that they have a desire to be a part of our community and to do the right thing. They have a desire, and sometimes they just don't know how.
Yeah.
My name is Renee Buckingham, and I'm president of Humana's Care Delivery Organization. Earlier this year, Humana made a commitment to support the work that the Urban League does in our hometown to address racial inequity, the root causes of injustice, and poverty. We know how important the work is of the Urban League and organizations like it in our community, and we encourage all organizations who can support this type of work to do so. Earlier this year as well, I was able to join the Urban League's Board of Directors. And as one of the newest members of the Board of Directors, I am in awe of all of the work that they do to support our community, and especially this year, despite all of the challenges. The direction of Sadiqa Reynolds, supported by the entire Urban League team, is truly inspiring. I hope you leave today and our event also inspired to support the work of the Urban League. I want to thank all of you for your participation, as well as our sponsors who have helped to make this event possible. From the entire Urban League family, we wish you and your family the happiest and safest of holiday seasons.
Thank you all so much for spending time with us today. I know that everyone's busy. Thank you to Kroger for being our presenting sponsor. Thank you to LG&E for being willing to match up to $5,000. And also thank you so much to the Louisville Urban League Board of Directors. Thank you for everything you do to support our work, to support our mission, and to support me personally. You can never know what it means to me. Thank you to the staff at the league and especially the leadership team. I am so thankful to have you all at the league and in my life. I appreciate you. And finally, thank you, Louisville, for being willing to fight the good fight. Let's go.
Receive this benediction, this blessing. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. And give thee peace. And give thee peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, amen.